Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to exert an almost supernatural control over their environment? Without raising their voice, without pleading, they simply withdraw, and suddenly everything changes. The energy shifts. People begin to question, to pursue, to feel. Now imagine if you did the same. If you stopped automatically reacting to everything. If you chose silence instead of the immediate response, retreat instead of explosion. What might happen? When you stop being constantly available, emotionally, physically, psychologically, the world around you experiences a crisis. People are accustomed to controlling you through your reactions, your impulses, your predictability. But the day you choose to withdraw, the game changes. Those who thought they knew, you realize they know nothing about you at all. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. Consider this. When you become inaccessible, who grows desperate? Who becomes irritated? Who tries to provoke you just to elicit some emotional response? This reveals more about them than about you, and primarily, it reveals how much you've been manipulated without realizing it. You've been giving yourself away to please others, to maintain peace, to avoid losing people who deep down were never truly with you. With every forced yes, every immediate response, every emotional reaction, you surrender a piece of your energy. By day's end, what remains? Exhaustion, frustration, an inexplicable emptiness. Since childhood, you've been conditioned to believe your worth lies in your availability to others. You've been taught to always be present, to respond quickly, to please, to say yes, even when you wanted to say no. But here's a truth perhaps no one has told you with such clarity. This excessive availability is not a virtue. It's a prison. As long as you continue believing you must be accessible at all times, you will be manipulated, drained, and forgotten once you're no longer useful. Being perpetually available makes you predictable, and anything predictable becomes a tool. People begin using you as an emotional emergency button, pressing it when they want attention, relief, or validation, then putting you back on the shelf. You don't recognize this because you're trapped in the illusion that being present for everyone will ensure someone will be present for you. But it doesn't work that way. Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, loved, recognized. It's precisely this mask that keeps you overly available. You say, "It's okay" when you're suffocating. You respond to messages immediately, even when exhausted. You explain, justify, and defend yourself as if you owe something to the world. The truth is that the more you place yourself at the center of others' stage, the more you disappear from your own. Being available all the time is a subtle form of self-abandonment, a disguised way of seeking approval, avoiding rejection, trying to control others' perception of you. But this control comes at a price, and that price is your peace. Your vital energy distributed as if infinite, when in fact it is very limited. People who want you available continuously don't want you. They want what you provide: validation, company, distraction, emotional comfort. When you change, when you set boundaries, when you refuse to react, these same people grow irritated, accuse you, call you strange. Not because you've changed, but because you've stopped being functional for them. The cruelest irony. The more available you are, the less value others assign to you. What's too abundant becomes an emotional rag. No one respects what they don't have to earn. No one values what is always there. Jung didn't view the human psyche as an automatic machine reacting to stimuli without consequences. For him, our mind functions as an energy system. Every thought, emotion, and action consuming a portion of that energy. The question becomes, are you choosing where your energy goes, or letting the world decide for you? Each impulsive reaction wastes psychic energy. Defending against unworthy criticism, responding to provocations just to prove yourself right, engaging in pointless arguments, trying to please those who don't value you. You're spending your inner strength on what doesn't nourish you. Jung was clear. That which you resist persists. The more you react, the more you bind yourself. People who live emotionally drained aren't weak, they're misdirected. And someone perpetually exhausted becomes vulnerable, easy prey for manipulative, opportunistic, and emotionally needy individuals who sense you don't know how to guard your energy. A healthy psyche knows how to keep energy within the system. This means knowing how to say no without guilt, how to remain silent without feeling cowardly, how to observe before acting. True power lies not in reaction, but in choosing when and how to act. Possible only when you know yourself well enough to recognize your own impulses. When you conserve your energy, you break the projections others place upon you. And this disturbs many. Most of your emotional responses are programmed, and those who understand this manipulate you easily. Opportunistic people don't need to raise their voices or make threats. They simply trigger the buttons you've left exposed, and you react predictably. The more emotionally available you are, the more you become a blank canvas for others' projections. That friend who only reaches out during crises, that partner who always needs you to save the day, that person who praises you only as long as you remain useful. None of this happens by chance. They aren't relating to you, but to the idea of you, to the role you've agreed to play. And why do you agree? Because you fear disappointing others, fear not being loved, fear abandonment. The most effective manipulation doesn't occur through shouting, but in the silence of guilt. When you feel you owe something to another, when you believe you must be available, must help, must understand, even as it destroys you inside. The modern world is noisy. Everyone wants to be heard, to respond quickly, to win pointless debates and prove their point, even at the cost of their peace. But there exists a power few know and fewer master, the power of silence. Not the silence of passivity or cowardice, but conscious, strategic, brutally lucid silence. A silence that isn't absence, but amplified presence. Jung saw silence not as emptiness, but as fertile ground for inner transformation. When you stop reacting, you begin to observe, noticing patterns previously invisible, emotional repetitions, manipulation games, cycles of self-sabotage. Silence allows for lucidity, and lucidity threatens those who live to control you. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond, don't explain yourself, when you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you. It's because your silence removes their narrative control. While speaking, you remain in their game. In silence, you change the rules, unbalancing anyone who thrives on your reaction. True silence isn't the absence of voice, but mastery over one's energy, the refusal to be dragged down by others' emotions, the conscious choice not to engage in battles not worth fighting. Jung noted that individuation, becoming who you truly are, requires this distancing, because only in silence can you hear yourself without the world's interference. When you stop being available to everyone, something profound begins to happen. First comes silence, uncomfortable silence that seems to scream inside you. You wonder if you've done the right thing, if you're being too harsh, if you're losing people who care for you. But gradually, this silence transforms. It begins to cleanse, to calm, to heal. Then comes solitude, not the solitude of absence, but of total presence. Your own. The solitude of the strong. The solitude of one who no longer betrays themselves to keep others close. In that space where confusion once dwelled, clarity enters. Where anxiety existed, peace enters. Where neediness lived, a new strength emerges, the strength of being whole within yourself. Jung said the process of individuation requires you to distance yourself from the collective, to remove the mask, to walk alone for a while. When you decide to become unavailable, you aren't fleeing the world. You're returning to yourself. At this point, you cease being a reactor and become a creator. You are no longer shaped by circumstances, but begin shaping your reality from within. Those uncomfortable with your absence reveal they never wanted you. They wanted the role you played. And now that you no longer fit, they don't know what to do with you. This realization liberates. You may lose people, but you'll find yourself. You may distance yourself from places, but you'll reconnect with your essence. You may be misunderstood, but finally, you'll begin to be respected. Because when you're no longer available for anything and everything, you become valuable, rare, unforgettable. This is rebirth, a new beginning, the start of a life where you're no longer available for emotional crumbs, for mind games, for voids disguised as affection. Now you accept only what resonates with your peace, your truth, your wholeness. Are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, or even disliked in the name of your inner freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of being authentically yourself? If this message resonates with you, perhaps a part of you already understands that being loved means nothing if it requires self-abandonment, and that true self-love begins when you choose yourself, even if it means being alone for a while.